Hello, my friend. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Ree, Happy New Year. How's everything going?
I'm ready for 2025. I have been ready for the last 2 months of 2024 for it to be 2025. And excited for the new year. It feels
Yeah.
good. It feels good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I feel the same. I probably was waiting for 2025 for 6 months, so so I'm ready for it.
What was it about 2024? We'll have to look back down the road.
It was
Tough
just
year.
terrible. Yeah, I think. Well, I think I look back now too, and I'm like, maybe it was a very transformative year, and growth is sometimes a
Okay.
little sticky, right? So yeah, we'll call it
Going
that.
at it with that positive viewpoint, I
Yeah.
encourage that wholeheartedly. What did we learn in 2024? We
Yeah.
learned we couldn't wait for 2025.
Hmm.
So, what'd you do over the holidays?
So how does like Christmas landed and how New Year's landed? We actually were closed for 2 full weeks. Like a Sunday to a Sunday. It was so weird. We've never really closed that long. But with Christmas Eve and Christmas Day being like a Tuesday, Wednesday, and same with the New Year, the studio was just closed and it was good. We just um enjoyed the holidays. Cole was at my house for Christmas. So Christmas Day was like a whole day fiasco, which was amazing. My son's 4. So like the spirit of Christmas was so alive in my house, which was amazing. And got through some stuff for the studio. I had like 2 solid days where I just like banged out a bunch of work stuff and yeah, I got like things together for like upcoming camps. Like my brain's already there. I know people don't want to hear this, but I'm already thinking about like summer camps and I'm reaching out to staff about that and competitions right around the corner. So I think I allowed myself to kind of ease into the chaos that is dance studio owner spring, right? But I feel a little bit more prepared now that I did that, which was nice, but still had that balance of like enjoying the holiday.
And to those who didn't want to hear her talk about summer camps,
No, just forget I said it, you guys.
this
I haven't
might
done
be the
anything but
right
think about it.
time.
Yeah.
Getting ahead of yourself is a really cool idea in our field. Give it
Yeah.
a shot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went back to Boston for the holidays, hung with the
Oh,
family.
nice. How
Really
was it?
nice thing. I loved it. I had a great time with the family. We do Christmas Eve where we give each other presents, and then Christmas
Hmm.
Day is dinner. I hadn't seen anybody since I left last July, so it was good to see
That was a
everyone.
long time.
Hung out with a couple friends, but it was so cold.
Oh yeah. Rhea, it's a high of 30. I mean, I'm in Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia. It's a high of 30 today. It's snowing. I'm like, oh, winter is here. You got out in the nick of time. Like,
And whatever is happening, I keep looking because when you've lived in the same place for so long, you automatically look at a map. I'm starting to now look at where
just
I
tell.
actually live. This storm is like right above me that's going across the country. I go, I think I moved to the right place.
Yep, for sure. For sure. How is your new house? Are you loving it?
I'm loving it. It's a process. I have the furniture.
Hmm.
Thought that would like be a milestone, but now I need pillows on the furniture. Now I need, it's gonna take a year.
Yeah.
'Cause I sold most everything that I owned when I sold the retreat center, other than a
Hmm.
few pieces of furniture that I
Hmm.
really wanted to keep for myself. But I like starting fresh. I'm going
Yeah.
mid-century modern sort of.
Mm. Yep. When I bought this house, same thing. I started completely fresh. Everything is new in my house, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's like my couch and it's the specific dining room table that I liked, and even the colors that I painted it, like a deep navy blue. And it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm loving it. The difference between this round of, let's say, buying furniture and in the old days, having to put stuff together, that freaks me out.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say. I've learned to accept it and have actually put together, I put that lamp together right there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is scary to me. I remember when everything was all just put together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like too, I'm like, when I'm putting things together, I'm like, I'm not an angry person until I'm trying to put cubbies together. All of a sudden, I'm an angry person. I'm like, why doesn't this match up? I'm missing a screw. Where's the peg?
Yes.
Why is it leaning? Like,
And what it is you're worried that that's what's going to happen. So the whole process,
yeah,
really,
you're stressed. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's high
For
stress.
sure.
If you are out there listening to this and you sell put together furniture, you might consider what we're discussing today on Comic. We had Ray Leeper here as our guest this week.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you watching live or on demand, this man is very exciting to hang out with, and long history in our field. Looking forward to speaking to him. Ray will be with us right after this.
We are.
Hello, my friend. I realized you were in a couple of shots there at the con.
Yeah, a couple of things. Yes, I was so excited to see that. I had such a great time. We were talking, I was listening to you guys. A couple things. First of all, good to see you both. I'm coming to you from California. It's going to be a high of 70. So if you hate me, sorry. Just putting that out there. A little part of me, though, that wishes to have, all the cute winter coats, but that doesn't really happen here in Southern California.
I don't see a winter coat as cute, my friend.
No.
Okay, fine.
No.
And then the other thing, like putting furniture together, that doesn't really happen over here either. I say, like, save yourself the aggravation, pay the extra $40 and have the delivery guy do it. That's all I got before we talk about dance.
Yep.
We should have brought you in at the beginning. You would have made me feel better.
I'm going to solve all your problems today.
No, I want to say now, I look at everything, and if it says white glove delivery, I get really excited. If it doesn't say white glove delivery, I'm not going to check you out so quickly.
Yeah, but they're actually wearing the white gloves, so I don't know. That's okay.
This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Are we gonna talk dance or just life in general, moving, putting furniture together?
I will say this though too. Seeing that clip from this summer, you guys were talking about 2024, and I just want to say too, like, kind of for me, 2024 has been exploration of new opportunities. So what's been great for me with 2024 and what makes me excited about 2025 is the new opportunities. Like reteaching for you this summer, for Soul and Dance Live was something new I was able to do because I am no longer a director of a convention. So I'm kind of free doing all these things, which has been really, really great. So that's been my 2024 and what I'm really excited about 2025 as well, to continue that journey for sure.
Did you just do choreography? I wanted to say So You Think You Can Dance, but that isn't it.
Yeah, that one, they tried. They did something new this season, and it was.
Oh, they did?
They did. It was a bit of a departure. They moved the production to Atlanta, which is something a lot of people are doing. A lot of productions are doing because it's cheaper there. They did a lot of on-camera scenarios. So the entire format was completely changed.
Yeah.
Different producers, executive producers, and they did a thing. I don't know whether it's coming back or not, but I had my time with that show. I did a lot of
I know
years.
you did.
Loved it. But yeah, I did a couple of new shows this year. I did a Masked Singer, which was, I had never watched the show. This is so terrible, you guys. This is the thing when people ask me like, okay, you're a choreographer. I try not to say that because what do you choreograph? I'm like, sometimes I do TV and stuff, and I say certain shows. They go, well, I don't watch that show, and I'm like, I don't watch it either. I just
they just cut me a check. That's all.
so that was a really great opportunity this year too. That show was a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it is as outrageous behind the scenes as you're seeing on the screen. It is outrageous. So yeah, that was.
I have to check that one out. I have I have a hard time watching some of those shows, but I'm going to check this out now that I know you're involved, my friend.
You know what was great about it? It was because the choreography doesn't take itself too seriously. So it's not like we're not moving mountains. We are not, transforming dance choreography on that show. It is, you can do stupid stuff, and sometimes the more outrageous and the more stupid and ridiculous, the better. And that was kind of fun, not to have the pressure of, creating something that someone's going to watch where you feel like you have to move dance forward. We're not moving dance forward on that show. We are.
It's very entertainment, silly and entertainment. Yeah, pure entertainment.
Yeah, and totally fun. So yeah. So that was new. That was new this year as well.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to take you somewhere just because I know this about you and I'm curious. I was curious coming on to this conversation. You seem to have this passion for jazz dance. Like when I was reading resumes and different things, it always led back to jazz dance. Tell us about that. How did that happen for you? And why is it so important to you?
Well, I think, so when I started dancing, it was 1978, 79, I think. So, and of course, a boy of 8 or 9 years old going into dance at that time, for me, there weren't many boys dancing at that time at all, especially in LA County. And we certainly weren't starting with ballet. Ballet was something that you were introduced to. It'd be kind of the same as, I started with jazz, and now what we're doing is we're giving, possibly at a studio, the boys are getting free hip hop classes as the gateway to get them into the other genres and other disciplines, right? Mm-hmm. So I started with jazz. It took my dance teacher a year to get me into tap and ballet, and then I got it. She's like, you're not going to just do this one thing, and then everything else started. And a couple years later, I do believe it was 1982. So Ree, this is kind of a connection that you and I have that I don't even think you realize. I might have mentioned it to you before, but I watched you compete for Mr. Dance at DMA in Washington, D.C. that year. So how I know that, it was my first nationals I had ever done. My teacher here on the West Coast, although DMA was strong on the West Coast, it wasn't necessarily a big West Coast thing as it is, in the Northeast and other areas of the country at that time. And so we got ourselves to Washington, D.C. I remember watching Ree compete and win Mr. Dance of America in Washington, D.C. I think it was 1982.
It was.
It was, right?
Yes.
Yes. And just watching, I remember watching the choreography of the senior dancers, the group dancers. I remember the opening number being choreographed for Mr. and Miss Dance. And I remember how moved I was by how elevated the choreography was. And from the West Coast, and the West Coast has always been part of trend, right? We had technique, but the choreography in a sense was based on trend, even within jazz, right? So if you're looking at someone like Joe Tremaine at the time over here on the West Coast was super huge versus say maybe like and I'll get to this in a second, Auguste Giordano that was happening in Chicago, two different styles. And the difference between West Coast choreography and East Coast choreography at that time, it was the same. The styles are still different to this day. And so for a West Coast kid to go to the East Coast and see jazz in a different way, and also see jazz incorporated in a way that had more of a modern flair to it, I had never seen that before. So I was really struck by that. And it was also the first time I had ever taken from Gus Giordano, because he was there. So he pulled me up on stage. It was the whole thing. You guys, I think I was that good. I think it was because I was wearing all his gear. Like I had the Gus shoes, I had the Gus like lycra, like
you're a walking billboard.
Lots of lycra. I can.
Yeah, and there's a photo of Gus. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a photo of us where I'm in like a jazz fourth with the arm out, the whole thing. We're in the same outfit. So I think that Gus being Gus, as I remember him, he might have saw something, but we were twins that day. Anyway, I was so moved by that class. And it was also I didn't realize too how much influence those jazz greats at that time had on my teacher. So when he's doing his, you have an hour, right? So he's doing a little bit of a warm up and I'm like, oh my God, this is what we do at my studio in LA. I didn't realize all those connections were happening and how much influence the big jazz greats at that time were having on my particular dance teacher. So jazz has always been my first love. I tend to be a full out kind of guy anyway. So the dynamic of jazz and the roots of jazz and how we move and the groove and the plie and where it comes from feels like me. That's it. Just that's how, the way I move, the way I approach life is all about not just jazz and the style of it, but the roots of jazz I feel connected to, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
It made total sense. Yeah. I want to ask you one more on that jazz question. So you do things for Giordano Jazz Chicago? Am I saying, is it no longer jazz? Is it Giordano Chicago?
Yeah, it's Giordano Dance Chicago. And I just set my third work on them in the springtime. And they are having, what is the right word for it? Kind of a revolution over there. The company is so strong. I did some of the best work I've ever done on these dancers. It's still jazz. They were having, excuse me, they do more contemporary pieces for sure. They have Roni Koresh comes in and does a lot of that stuff, and Israeli-based stuff. But what I found, what Nan Giordano has told me is that they have a booking agent, right? As most dance companies do. And a lot of people, when the companies are going on the road, they're wanting to see pieces that have more entertainment value. So the idea that they do more jazz, they are really leaning back into that, because I don't know if you know Nan very well, but she is finger on the pulse at all times, very forward thinking and very, very aware of what's happening now and what needs to happen with the company. And so when a lot of companies were doing, straight up contemporary, and that was more of what was happening, what people wanted, they were doing that. And now, Al Blackstone went in, she had Al Blackstone do a piece last spring that premiered, and she allowed him to do a full 30 minutes. He did a musical theater piece, and he did Gershwin, and it was Rhapsody in Blue, and it was Storyline. And I came in the fall, she said, you can have 20 minutes. And I did a 20-minute, like 5 pieces of jazz all in one piece. And it was really extraordinary. So she was saying that the booking agent is like, they don't want that, if we're going to New Orleans or we're going to certain parts of the country, the booking agent is saying, we don't want to see just that contemporary stuff. It's not reaching people right now. And I don't know if that, go ahead, Laura.
I would just like to say, I think that all listeners should be hearing that, because I feel like as a studio owner, and a studio that does compete as well, we're very heavy on the contemporary. And I, in my mind, always thought to myself at my studio, we have to create well-rounded dancers. If you're not well-rounded, you're not gonna be able to be booked for as many things that you could be possibly booked for. That's like my mentality. So for me, I hope that people who are listening, or when they're training their dancers, they're hearing that people are booking entertaining things. Not everyone right now wants, I'm not sure if I'm sure you guys know this, when you go to like competitions, there's such heavy pieces all the time. And it's just like, and the amount of heavy pieces are like this. And then here's the jazz category. You got five numbers.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's it. We have
Yeah.
30, 45 contemporary solos for age 17, and we have 5 jazz. It's like,
wait,
you
I
know,
have to jump in and say one thing, because I like to give this as a response when this topic comes up. To those of you who are doing contemporary work and your kids want to do contemporary work, realize that it doesn't have to be depressing or sad.
true.
You can create a musical theater contemporary piece and entertain an audience.
Yes.
We just have not headed in that direction. I think it's easier. The angst is easier. But I want to say, if that's the trend for Giordano, that's probably and what the general audience wants from dance today. It's probably going to be a lot of people who don't know what to do next because that's all they know at this point.
That is so true. And I do have a couple things to add to that. So for instance, you've got Hubbard Street, right? That's in the same towns in Chicago. Yeah. And for me, when I think of Hubbard Street, I do lean into more of a contemporary image. An image comes up that's more contemporary. That's not just what they do. You know, when Sherry Zunker was doing this stuff before, there was a lot of, her jazz was like, oh my God, outrageous. She was doing amazing stuff with Hubbard Street. And they've now, in this new generation, again, I say, okay, imagine them doing more contemporary. Well, this season, they commissioned Fosse. They had someone come in Hubbard Street now, and that might be a little bit of a Giordano Hubbard Street in the same town type of thing, but it's also, it's speaking to what's really happening right now, right?
Yeah, the shift that you're saying, that shift, and what people, I hate to say this, that like money talks, but money talks. And if people and if the pulse is people want to go back to that like joyful entertainment, I think that we have to start listening to that, right? Like, and just, I think the way that we train our dancers, I like it, just to make sure that I love contemporary. I went to Temple University and it was very heavy modern based. But I still took 3 jazz classes a week. I still took 4 ballet classes a week for 4.5 years. Like, that's just, I knew for me with my training, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be as well-rounded as possible. And I feel like us as studio owners just need to keep that in the back of our mind, especially from hearing someone like you who's like working in the industry, and the industry as of today, as of January 6th, like what's being booked. I think that's important for us to be aware of.
Yeah, you're so right. And I will say this, going back to the competition thing, of course, I mean, it's a couple things, you guys. You know, the contemporary, we used to joke, it's 13, 14, 15, you're a teenager, you want to do contemporary, you have feelings, get it out. Great. If that's how you need to get it out, it's not going to happen in the studio or in any other way. Do your contemporary piece. Fine. Also, too, the kids are saying, and the parents are saying that maybe the contemporary is being honored a bit more than the jazz is. Yeah. Right. And then when we start leaning so far into the contemporary, because of that, the kids start attaching themselves, well, I need to do contemporary, and they start to fall in love with it. Yeah. So the more we feed them the contemporary, the more they start eating it, and then they're getting recognized for it. Then the jazz falls off. And then it's like, okay, well, how badass does your jazz number have to be to beat the contemporary? Pretty badass.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, but on the flip side of it, when, I'm out here and we have the Kaufman program at USC, and then I've done a lot of teaching for PACE in New York, those kids who are transferring, those are convention kids who are in those programs. But when they're graduating, they're auditioning for me for these TV shows. And I ain't doing any contemporary TV shows. Masked Singer, we just had that conversation, right? So you can do all the contemporary you want, but if you can't get on stage and do jazz choreography and act like an idiot and have some kind of character going, you're not going to get hired. So you can eat as much granola as you want. It's just not going to work. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to work. And what's great about PACE is that program has like so many dancers who are transferring. They graduate in their junior or senior year, and they're doing the Radio City show. They're becoming Rockettes, and they're doing ensembles. So what's great about that program is, you know, it hasn't been around that long, but certain jobs are picking up and say, oh, those kids coming from that school can do those things. And they're getting directly booked, or you have it on the resume and you know, okay, if they're coming from this school, I know they can do those things. And that's why I think it's important, to your point, Laura, is you can do all the contemporary you want, but you have to fortify the rest of your disciplines. And let's be real.
Yeah. And I think it also, like, if you want to be a contemporary dancer and that's your passion, that's what you want to go into, then go 100% in it. But I think if you want to be a professional dancer and have multiple avenues open up for you and not just be in this category, like you're saying, and to me, it's like a well-rounded dancer is a bookable dancer and has way more opportunities than if you're only in one little niche of what your style is. I remember going to a studio and, you know, they're like, what can you teach? And I was like, tap, ballet, modern, jazz, hip hop, point. And they were like, what? And I remember them being like, so I can book you on a Monday and Tuesday night. You can go from a baby class to a senior hip hop to an advanced tap class. And I'm like, yeah. And I know that I was offered more opportunities to teach and choreograph because, and I see that with owning my studio. I have teachers who can only teach a hip hop class. Well, you only get 3 hip hop classes compared to my company director who teaches, she could teach senior point and senior hip hop because she danced professionally with both. And like, that's amazing, you know? And I mean, like right now she's 4 nights a week, but before she was 5. And making the schedule with her was a breeze. It made my life so easy because it was just what was accommodating for the schedule and to help my studio growth, and not so much what those specific teachers can teach, right? And there was like, for me, she's worth so much to me because of it. Not that my other teachers are not, but the flexibility that she gives me with my schedule and how she can cover certain things and her creativity and her well-rounded training, like that speaks volumes, you know, and it really helps me with my schedule. And I mean, to be honest, that's why she's the company director, because she can handle all those things.
Okay, I got some words on this particular topic. You are lucky to have that, Laura.
Yeah.
In the old days, my mother, Sherry Gold, all of these people who own studios, great teachers around the country, many still exist. You could teach ballet, tap, jazz, acrobatics, tumbling. Who remembers? I'm going to say a name. Ray will remember Charles Kelly. I mean, everything, and he was a master teacher at it all. I don't see that as the future of dance education. I see it as they're defining themselves in a particular category.
Yes. Okay. Wait. So I'm so glad you brought up your mom, Marie, because you know, back in the good old days, or, you know, just older generations, I think we can, if you're of a certain age, you remember that your dance teacher taught you all the disciplines, right? Maybe a lot of those dance studios started in their basements. It was that one teacher teaching in the basement and then expanded into the whole thing, right? And for me, I was raised in my training that I needed to do all the styles all the way up into a certain point, right? When I graduated. And now I'm finding that tap at a very early age, 12, 13, is you can take it or not take it. It's a choice now, right? For me, I wish I would have continued to tap more. So I would have that more in my vocabulary now as a choreographer. When I first started teaching master classes around the country, we were talking a long time ago, Laura, like I would go into a studio and I would teach lyrical and contemporary and jazz and hip hop. And now
Mhm.
I'm just the jazz guy because you bring in someone else for contemporary, someone else for tap. And
Yeah.
to your point, Reed, I really believe that it's so separate now. And if we go
Yeah.
back to thinking and dance, is when we started labeling someone as a contemporary choreographer. I fell into
Mhm.
jazz. Ray only does jazz because of that show. No one asked me to do lyrical or contemporary anymore. They only
Oh.
Really?
And
yes.
how do you feel about that? Are you
Well,
okay with that, or do you want to break out of that mold and like feel like you want to be seen for other things? How do you feel as a choreographer with that?
I think a dancer of an age of 30 or younger, probably at this time, would have no idea that I was even capable of doing those other styles, for sure. Yeah, you're told, okay, this is your niche now, and that's fine. I'll have to say I don't get as much opportunity to exercise those other things because, listen, I don't own a studio, so I can't go in and just workshop on the dancers, right, and do these things. I've been put
Mhm.
in kind of this box. And that's okay. But I think that's kind of, you think of certain choreographers now, they only do this or they only do that. And
Yeah.
bring up, someone like Mandy Moore, who does a lot of choreography, amazing choreography. She does everything too, but you're only going to see one particular thing for the most part, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
It's
It's
so funny because I asked you in the beginning of this conversation about your passion for jazz dance,
uh,
believing that that was your
Mhm.
passion, but did
yeah,
I even peg you there?
yeah. It's and it's interesting. I think the closest that I can get to with jazz, like I really love doing medium tempo jazz or jazz that is I don't know, maybe on the more sensual side or that creates a relationship. But it doesn't always have to be at 150 BPMs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I like
Right.
doing that kind of stuff and relationship stuff in a duet, and that's the closest I can get for the most part at this point. If people ask me to do that kind of thing, and I think the most success I have within the jazz realm is if I'm allowed to go in that direction, more of a bluesy kind of style, and again, that goes more to the roots of jazz for me than doing the very, very, very up tempo stuff. If that makes any sense,
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know,
Interesting.
guys. I think just
Interesting.
recommend everybody should just be doing as much as they possibly can, so they have as much in their arsenal, when
Yes.
they go out into the world, whether it's even vocal classes, trying to get kids to at least take one vocal class a week if they can, or every couple weeks, and just have that just in case they want to move to New York and
Mhm.
start doing Broadway stuff. It
Mhm.
shifts for dancers. They don't realize until they get in it. It's like, oh my gosh, this isn't really what I want to do, but it's all I've been doing for the past 5 years because I thought I would have wanted to do. So you
Mm. Yeah.
got to keep your options open, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
how?
we have to keep our kids diverse and understanding all genres and art forms. If they say they're a dancer, I feel like they need to understand dance.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I think I'm old fashioned. Like, I think about 2 years ago, I turned old fashioned. I just hit this wall because I'm not sure that the next generation believes that.
I don't
That kind of
know.
makes me sad, though.
Okay, then let's hit on a more exciting topic.
I would hope that, I don't know. Don't you think though, Ree? Like, I mean, I would say that I came from a more traditional dance studio. It was tap, ballet, jazz. That's what you did when you were young. And then once you got to like company level, like we weren't even offered modern until I was probably 10 or 11. But there was no lyrical, there was no contemporary, there was no acrobatic. Like, I mean, I'm born in 1985. Like I'm a 90s kid and early 2000s. Like we didn't have any of that. I did not compete, but I got really good training from my neighborhood studio, like really solid training that we didn't feel the need to compete. Like we would get hired and go to like the opening of Dunkin' Donuts in our area and work and and do parades. And like we did scholarship performances and we performed in Center City, Philadelphia. Like we never, I didn't even think I knew about competitions when I was 14, 15 years old, because that's just not what our studio did. And I don't know if it was necessarily, maybe it's just not what we did, or more so it was an inner city studio. It wasn't a suburban, more upper middle class studio where finances were not an issue. And like, even like my mom works in my studio now, and she said, Dad and I would have never been able to afford these competition fees. Dad and I would have never been able to afford competition costumes. So I'm happy that we were at a studio where we didn't have to do that. And that's something that I took at my studio. Like I wanted to have both. You want to go and dance 5 days a week, you can do that at Libra, or you can be in a class and just take an advanced intermediate hip hop class or an advanced intermediate jazz class once a week. And we have great kids in there, kids that I would love to pull onto my competition team because they're that level, but they don't want to make, either one, they don't want to make the financial commitment, or two, they don't want to make the weekly commitment of being at the studio multiple days. They're like, I love dance, but I love soccer. I love dance and I love softball. And I'm like, cool, just stay in your hip hop class then. Keep growing, keep pushing. Like you'll shine in the recital dance. Like that's cool. But I think that's what I took from that old school mentality and brought to that old school mentality. And I brought to my studio that you don't have to be a part of the competition team to be like the best, to be great. Like you can still have a passion for dance. And I even hate calling it a recreational class because, to be honest, they do the same exact warm up that my senior and juniors do. It's the same exact teacher. It's my senior teacher who teaches senior and junior hip hop teaches intermediate advanced hip hop in my recreational program. They're different kids, but it's the same exact level. It's the same teachers that push them. So I don't even like calling it rec because it's the same. They get the same technique. They get the same expectation for them. So, I mean, that's something that I think I got from my studio. That's an old school mentality that works for us. Because I don't think the competition scene is feasible for everyone for different reasons.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm going to toss something out there that you said that I connected a couple dots, see what you guys think of it. Maybe when we were growing up, it was ballet, tap, jazz, and maybe you toss something else in there. And now it's ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, hip hop, lyrical, modern.
Yep.
So there's so much out there.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know how they fit it in. I will say this, my experience is running the dance convention for so long. We would have these conversations, Ree. You know, for me being on the West Coast, it was tap, ballet, jazz, and sometimes acro, you know, which is a different, I think acro was a bit more of a thing on the East Coast than it was the West Coast. And then now as we get into these days, yes, it's the acro, and now it is the contemporary, and you've got the lyrical, and now you've got the ballroom that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you ask the teachers, well, how do you manage all of that? Well, there isn't enough time in the schedule, quite honestly. So they have to, from my experience and what I've been told from the teachers I've spoken with, they have to do like an every other week type of thing. So they're not getting ballroom every week, but they're having to interchange those classes so they can get all those genres in, but the kids are they getting well-versed in any of it for sure? And what is a contemporary
that's interesting.
like? Right. And then what does a contemporary class look like? For me, a contemporary warm-up would be different than a jazz warm-up. Are we warming up? I hope we're warming up, but
I hope we're warming up. I hope we're doing isolations in jazz because I'm old school and still do it.
But I think that's interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, then I always say this. This is a joke, but it's a truth. We didn't know what lyrical was. Nobody ever could actually identify it. Then contemporary came along and no one can identify that.
Yeah.
Because if you ask 5 different people, what is lyrical? They tell you something different. Oh, it's slow with words. Well, I know lyrical isn't always with words. It's like, what is this thing we created that became such a huge part of our industry? Will we be able to define it? What is contemporary?
Well,
Anybody have that answer?
I think that, you know, a new style of dance comes out and then we have to label it so that we can put it in its category.
Okay.
And then when we hear that word, we can automatically have an image of what that is.
Yeah.
So I think with lyrical dance, for me, I'll give you my answer on that, has always been a combination of jazz and ballet together. It's a melding of those together with some modern thrown in, and we're moving slower, right? So,
Yeah.
and then the contemporary thing, I think, for me, the word contemporary just always means of the moment. So when I hear contemporary, I think to myself, well, even though I'm not choreographing contemporary, I'm doing jazz, but if I'm doing contemporary jazz, it just means jazz of the moment. I'll give you that. So I think that contemporary is this kind of like dumping ground, that anything that we can't really identify as one of the classic disciplines, where it becomes a little bit more abstract or has a little bit more of something that needs interpretation, or has a little bit more freedom where we don't have to define it. Maybe we can put it in a contemporary category and it covers a lot of types of movement, in a sense, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. It does.
Because I do think there's jazz and contemporary. I think there's modern contemporary. I think there's ballet and contemporary. And then you go into neoclassical, which could be, there's so many layers to contemporary in that category, right? And different ways of moving. Contemporary ballet, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you with lyrical. That's how I explain it. I'm like, lyrical is a mixture of ballet and jazz. And I do say it's usually storytelling, right? It has a story about it. You are expressing the lyrics. That's usually how I say it. But then when it comes to contemporary in the competitive world, you're probably going to laugh. I say it's modern with turn sequences. You're not doing flettes and elevates in modern, but in contemporary, you're allowed to. Like, and then my teachers just laugh, and I'm like, but what else is the like contemporary compared to the modern category? It's like,
I look at contemporary, or did, as uniqueness, bringing something to the table that we were restricted maybe from bringing to the table when people were looking at our technique. Even though they have good technique, I looked at it as breaking out of all boundaries, and then people took it in different directions.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because it's something that, you know, going to not really be being able to define. I mean, I think of certain words like a little bit more abstract, or, you know, the shapes are, you know, different, or if you're using the music differently. Like when there was a time in the early 2000s with contemporary where it was very gestural, and you were hitting every syllable of every count of every lyric, you know what I'm saying? Where that was a certain kind of interpretation of lyrics and using musicality. But now it's broadened into where, maybe to your point, Laura, where, you know, we're saying like they're doing turn sequences, but I remember, I don't know, just seeing kids in a hinge for a good 3/8. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, kind of, and they would just hold, like slow motion contemporary. I think what I'm trying to say, all to your point, Ree, is that it's like, without making it sound as if it's a dumping ground, but it's gonna be unidentifiable, or something that is unique, right? That's new, that's of the time, that's a new creation that we haven't seen before, right? If you think of something that's contemporary, it is just right now, what's happening right now. Yeah.
First, I want to go back to a comment, Ray, that we got earlier. You inspired this. Did you see this?
No.
She's playing hooky from school.
She wanted to stay out of school to watch you today. We're promoting, what is it you call kids?
You're playing hooky.
Yeah. So if you're watching, you should be in school. But
hi guys.
You inspire.
Thank you.
Tell me about something you haven't done that you've always wanted to do, whether it relates to show business in some way or life.
Yeah. What I will tell you this is I think that as an artist for myself, and I hope that people can relate to this, you put yourself out there so much and creation, I think with teaching and by putting yourself out there, there's a certain amount of fear that comes in. Like I still get butterflies when I walk into a room to teach, I still get that thing in my stomach where I just want to be able to say the right things and be clear about what I'm saying, all that stuff. And for me, a lot of choreographers are doing concept videos now. And I've been watching, and I'm so overwhelmed watching because it's so much of it's so innovative and so incredibly creative and forward moving and forward thinking. And I'm of a certain age. And you think the amount of energy I had just 10 years ago, 20 years ago versus now, it just changed. Sometimes you just don't feel like it, or you can't imagine yourself putting that amount of energy into something like that. And I just had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a couple of dancers, and I think I want to do a concept video and do something very, very just grown up, very, very who I am at my age at this time, and to try to take myself out of what I'm seeing all the youngins doing. What would I do, right? What kind of story can I portray at my age with my experience that would still have impact, but in a different way? And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. I want to take a leap into that, and I have more time to be able to do that now. It's going to cost some money, and I've got to get into the right space and hire the right dancers and do the whole thing and produce it. But the kids are almost doing that on the daily, right? In their own little way, little ways. Any kind of doing for TikTok, even for 30 seconds, is a production. There's thought, and they're doing it. And then you see these amazing, dance pieces that are being done in video. And I want to do that because a lot of the times as a choreographer, I am under the direction of what I have to do. So I am kind of taking my choreography and creating for what needs to be done for a production. And that's fine. I don't want to say I'm filling in blanks, but I don't get to go in and do whatever I want, right? This is the format. This is what we need from you as a choreographer, because we know you do this. So now do this for us. And here we go. And here's the package. And very rarely as you get into life, do you have the time or the energy to want to just create something for the sake of creating it. And it doesn't, it just has to exist. It doesn't have to make money. It doesn't have to, something like that. And maybe put myself out there in a social media moment where here you go. I just don't do that. And I come from a generation where I haven't had to, which I love. Thank you.
Yes. I want to say that sometimes I look myself and I go, wow, I don't know if I can keep up. I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
Because I think knowledge is so important, but figuring out the next new thing to reach the world in your craft.
Yeah.
It's an always evolving thing. And unless you're on top of it, like we were talking earlier about Auguste Giordano. Auguste Giordano created a technique that people are still doing. He's been gone probably 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. I can't remember. It seems like 10, but it's probably more. You created something that was lasting. Now I look at it as this is what's hot today. This is what's hot next week. This is what's hot in 2 weeks. And it's not this long lasting, I don't know.
Legacy. It's a legacy.
That's the word. It is legacy. But I think that we're just trained. It's of the time now to honestly, Ree, I know that we sound very old when we talk like that.
I feel bad sometimes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think it's fair that is the way it is, though, because things come and go so quickly, right?
Yes.
It's just, for me, you see a video, it's the swiping and the whole thing. Okay, what's next? What's next? I don't even know if people are asking the question, what's next? I think it's just part of what's ingrained in how we do it now. It's just, I'm going on to the next, I'm going on to the next. And even now in television as a choreographer, there are certain times where I'm like, my gosh, I don't even have time to enjoy it because it airs and it's gone. I'm on to the next. Quite literally, if you're working on the next week as you're shooting the week itself that you're already in. You're not even enjoying this moment. You're already on to the next. So for me, I get through a series. I'm like, okay, I guess I could watch some stuff back. What did I even freaking do? And so if I'm feeling that way and I'm in the moment, how is the general public feeling? How are dancers feeling? Like, what is it that you can do to like really land something and make an impact, right? On something. For myself, it's trying to, if I have an idea, instead of being fearful of it or thinking, oh, I can never do it that way. Well, you're not supposed to do it that way. That's not you. How can you do it in the way you can do it, where you feel like, okay, this is where you are, and do it in your way, I think.
Right.
I think that we all have great ideas, and how often do we let those ideas just float away because we don't think we can do it, right? But I think that's where I'm at right now.
I don't want you ever to doubt yourself. You are a genius at what you do, my friend.
Yes.
This is your little motivational talk. I mean that. And the knowledge and experience and all of that, never doubt. You are making an impact, just like that woman wrote earlier that I put up there. You are making an impact. And you're making an I that a younger person can't make.
Sure.
I do it.
Highlight that comment, Ree. What Dee just put. Dee just put look what Dee just put.
Oh my goodness.
Nope, down further. The very last one.
And baton.
Okay, but baton is the only thing I did not do.
Go down further. Her very most. There you go.
Oh, that's so sweet.
You're in the legacy bucket.
Oh, Dee, you're so sweet. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate those words, because if we go back to our connecting, just in the last couple of years, again, it means a lot, because I've always looked up to everything that you do. Laura, I don't know if you know this, but for me, I was so mired in running this dance convention for so long and doing those things, that when I decided not to do that anymore, and I told Ree one of the first phone calls I made was to call Ree and say, I want to be involved in whatever it is you do. You can figure out what you might want that to be. You don't have to say yes or anything, but just consider me for a lot of this really great stuff, because I was over here in this other world and watching the stuff online and watching everything that Ree's been doing, and having my experience of 1982 and watching him and all the things, and knowing the history and the lineage and legacy of his family, and watching from afar and finally having the opportunity, like, oh my gosh, I can finally get into something that I've been really on the sidelines watching, wanting to be a part of, that I couldn't be. And that's what's been really great, Rhea, is that just like, I had the time of my life this last summer, and it went by so, it's a moment, but it's like, what a great event, honestly.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Always.
And so I might have said this to you before, but I was like afraid to ask you to do the conference, because I thought maybe you might be beyond the conference. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I did. And how awesome you were and what you came to the table with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a match made in heaven, buddy.
Yeah. And Ray, I came in and saw your choreography, jazz, and how you were cleaning and manipulating and adding layers and all of that. And I loved it so much, because I went to Temple, and Temple's like a very choreography based studio college when I was there. So like to actually get into like a class that was more understanding choreography, how to link it together, how to add textures, I was just like, oh, this is like bringing me back, because where I am right now, like I'll still go and take dance class, but I'm a teacher now. I'm a choreographer now. Like that hat of being a dancer is still there, but it's hanging up a little bit more than the other hats I wear. So it was just so nice and refreshing being 39 and like being in that room and hearing all of that, because I do teach the senior jazz at my studio. I teach the petite jazz at my studio. And the girls and boys want to get into my senior jazz class. And, you know, for us, sometimes they're in that jazz class for a couple years. And it's like, and I want to make sure that they're still growing, even though they're in that class for a couple years. I want to make sure that my stuff is fresh and new, and my choreography is always fresh and new. I have my style, but I want it to keep growing. So I feel like the conference allowed me specifically to have a class like that as a choreographer. And I was like, oh, that's not a class you can just go sign up for. That's not offered. You know, I can't go to Powerhouse or I can't go to Broadway Dance Center and go and necessarily have that. So for me, that was I still look at my notes from your class. It was awesome. It was really, really good.
And I want more of those classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You must convince teachers,
yes,
especially teachers who teach more advanced kids, that they need a class where they are learning new strategies for choreography, new strategies for building technique, rather than a teacher standing up there and giving you a great workout.
Yeah.
Like a big thing for me.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that the dancers, they pick up so quickly now. It's mind blowing. So what we do know is that when they're watching us dance and they're picking up so quickly, they can definitely pick up by demonstration, meaning it's very easy because everything's online and they can watch it a couple times. I mean, I know dancers who can watch it a couple times and just get it. Didn't used to be like that. It's incredible how their minds work now. But what's not happening is the breakdown component of it. So they're learning it on a very surface level, and they've got there, but they don't know how to get there even better, right? I love teaching teachers and getting in the room is because we're all of the same mind, and I'm still trying to figure stuff out. So to get in there and ruminate over things or try to figure out how did we get from point A to point B and have these revelatory moments where I'm still discovering, I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, did you see that just happen? Why did that just happen? And then, so we're all kind of learning together, because I think it's always discovery. I don't go in always knowing what's going to happen. And I count on that. I count on not being able to answer the question. So we got to figure it out. And I think that's the way my brain works. I just want to know, how is this happening? You know? And if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, I don't know, but we'll get there. Eventually, it might not be today, but maybe next week we can explore. I think teachers are in that frame of mind. That's why I love teaching teachers or teaching with teachers, you know?
Yeah.
And you said it without saying it. As a teacher, you never cease to learn. Or you should never cease to learn, because you could be in a class with a bunch of other teachers and you go, how did that happen? You're learning, they're learning, you're growing together. We are consistent. If you want it, you can learn something new every day. And in our field, the evolution of it and how fast it's happening, I suggest we try to learn something new about our craft every single day.
So, sorry.
No, finish, because I was just going to say something like this. So much for a shorter coffee talk.
Yeah, always.
I think about young dancers too, especially teenagers, and the way their brains work. I try to, like, when I'm teaching them, you know, they're at school a lot of time. They're coming from a very analytic, you know, point of view. They're at school, they're programmed, it's all these things. And I think when they get into the studio, for me, I try my best to speak to them in a way that comes from logic. So when we're trying to figure stuff out, you see the light bulbs go off. So instead of just all being about this kind of broad, we're just dancing and it's feel good and all this, like, no, let's really talk about the science of this and why these things are happening. And you can see them click into a different part of their brain. And I really get off on that. I think that, like, when you are working with kids and you're working more on a cerebral level when it comes to technique and how you apply that to their movement using analogies and things like that, and falling off the center and counterbalance, counterpoint.
Yeah.
All these things are like,
Yeah.
oh, all these things I already know and I hear every day at school, whether it comes to science or these very concrete concepts apply to making my dance even better, my movement even quality. Yeah.
You're awesome, my friend.
Thank you.
We'll hang out again many times.
Yes.
Loved it.
Totally enjoy your company and what you bring to the table. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you. And Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year,
Happy
everybody.
New Year.
Thank you so much.
And we will be back in 2 weeks. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.